Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. Let's jump in. So we're going to talk about how to discover your high converting headline. And we're going to start with a quiz. So type your answer in the chat. The answer will be A or B. Which of these headlines do you think converted better? Just type in the chat, type A or B. What are we getting here? A lot of A's?
Lots of A's.
Few B's? All right, so it's probably not going to make the decision easier, but let me tell you that the difference was 10x. One of these converted 3%. One of these converted 30%. We're pretty evenly divided. Second headline is too long. I agree. But the answer is the second headline converted 10x better than the first headline. This was on a landing page and in an email. And in about 5 minutes, you are going to know why this thing converted 10x better. And hopefully in about 28 minutes, you're going to be on your way to writing your own 10x headline. So the agenda for today is I'm going to give a little primer on why, of all the things we could be teaching in this session, why language market fit, a quick primer on the neuroscience of human perception, explain this idea of language market fit, how to read your customers' minds, how to turn that into a 10x headline, and finally, how to validate and optimize that headline even if you have no traffic. Before I go any further, it'd be rude of me not to just introduce myself and my co-founder briefly. I don't know, Nopes, do you want to tell them a little bit about yourself?
Been doing this for a while, probably a bit too long. Been working in sort of digital marketing growth for over 24, 25 years. And yeah, met Matt when we were at 500 Startups together. Good to meet you.
Yeah, and I've been obviously doing this for a long time as well. A bunch of startups that failed you never heard of, some good success at PayPal, became a VC. And then I think when I was a VC for a while, I started to see some patterns, right? We would see startups failing basically for the same set of preventable reasons over and over again. And that's why I started my own company now, System, and we do a 10-week online cohort-based course. And we also run a course on Maven. And we've worked with over 200 companies now. And we've seen with some of those companies results where they've increased their growth in the 1 to 3 years following our program, as much as 100x, some of them 10x, some of them 100x. And the way we did that was this one key insight. We found if you take any successful startup and look backwards, you'll see that 90% of their results, 90% of their growth came from 10% of the stuff they tried. I saw this at PayPal. If you read, the Lenny Rachitsky studies of any of these great startups, you'll see this pattern over and over again. And if you start with the premise that whatever you're trying to build now, you've got that 90-20 in play, then that means progress is deciding what not to do. That means you need to find your 10% as quickly as possible before you run out of money, to be perfectly blunt about it. And so that's what we do with companies. And that's what my book that I'll try to sell you at the end of the program is about. It's how do you find these big growth levers? And it's a 4-step process. The first part is to map out your growth model, just to mathematically find points of leverage where you should focus for the greatest impact. The second thing is to read your customers' minds so you can speak to them in a language that resonates. That's obviously what we're going to talk about today. Third, you run lots of experiments. And then fourth, you do this for a while, the mindset starts to shift. But today, I really want to talk about that second one, particularly headlines, because I feel like that's the thing we can cover in 25 minutes we have left together that will have the biggest impact. First of all, if you can 10x your conversion, obviously the math works a lot better for your startup. But beyond that, the right headlines tell your customers what you're going to do for them. And if you can't tell your customers in simple English what you're going to do for them, how are your teams even going to know what to build, right? Like this language becomes a touchstone. When Steve Jobs said 1,000 songs in your pocket, the iPod team knew what to build, right? And then the third thing is that I love about language, and you'll see this today, is that you can test and iterate and validate language 5 times in an afternoon. So the learning cycles are so much quicker than any other methodology I know. So that's why we're talking about language. Off the soapbox, how does this work? So in my marketing career, I've started to notice these massive conversion lifts. You may have seen them as well. And I was just curious, like, why is that a thing? So I started researching it, and I ended up getting on a call with this guy. His name is Michael Halassa, and he's a neuroscience professor at MIT. And he explained that there's these neurons in the thalamic reticular nucleus that control our attention. They decide, of all the gazillion stimuli we see every day, which of those things are we actually going to think about? And it's a very fast, like these cells exist in bunny rabbits, in frogs, in lizards, in any vertebrates. So this isn't like a higher order human thinking function. This is like a 200 millisecond triage process, first fit pattern match based on familiarity and goal relevance. So these cells, when they see something that is on goal and they know what it is, you're going to notice it. You're going to think about it. You're going to ignore everything else. So our goal is to get past that filter. So let's think about that. First of all, what do I mean by goal relevance? Have you ever tried to meditate? So what happens when you close your eyes, you take a deep breath, and you just sit there in quiet repose for half an hour? No, that never happens, right? Not for me. Your mind is always turning on some kind of problem, trying to make some kind of progress, either achieve some wonderful goal or get away from some horrible fate. And that's what I mean by goal relevance. Whatever it is your brain happens to be doing at the time. So that gives us 4 possible conditions: on goal, off goal, familiar, unfamiliar. So you got 4 possible outcomes. I know what this is. By the way, I'm using food. There's this idea of looking like food. So this process is called information foraging. And it uses the same biological mechanisms that my pet bunny rabbit here uses to look for food. So it's basically a foraging process. So this is food. I know what it is. I know what this is. It's not food. I have no idea what this is, but it's clearly not food. The problem is this last box here. This is where most startups live, because most startups are making a new unfamiliar solution to an old problem. So I don't know if you guys have this stuff in the US or wherever you are, but I know it looks like something you'd put in a camp stove, but this is actually food, but it doesn't look like food. So what you got to do is what these guys do. This is a box of American chemicals that have been disguised to look like food. So they put a picture of food on the box. It has synthetic food smells. What's that?
Nutrition label.
It has a nutrition label. It's on the shelf next to food. So they kind of make it look like food. And that's essentially what we need to do for your product, is make it look like whatever food is for your customer. So you have to understand which images and words will look like food, will resonate with what's in their head, which means you need to know what's in their head to begin with. And that's what I mean by like reading your customer's mind. So here's an example of something that doesn't look like food to me. Connect everything, achieve anything. Did you ever wake up in the morning and think, all right, today I need to connect everything and achieve anything? It's complete nonsense, right? So thankfully they updated their headline, and now it says the fastest way to build apps. And, I may or may not want that, but if I want to build apps quickly, this headline tells me I'm in the right place. So let's go back to this one, right? The first one is shorter and it's pithier. I like the way it goes. It rolls off the tongue, but look at those words again. What does that actually mean? Did you ever think, today I want to develop my thinking through online discussion? Now, the second one, it's a lot of words, but these words were actually text mined from 50 hours of customer interview transcripts. And these are the verbs that this company's customers were using to describe what they were trying to do. They wanted to, and you can imagine, right, wanting to do this. I want to organize, share, and take notes on PDFs, web pages, and academic papers. I want to learn faster, remember more, and get things done. Those are all things that people actually want to do. And that's why this headline is so much better. So how do we apply this to you? How can you find your high converting headline? We've got a test we like to use. It's called the Now You Can test.
So yeah, so far you guys are watching this and it's like pretty straightforward. There's nothing that's really difficult with this. And you're thinking to yourself, this is it? So let's play a little game. Open up a tab in your browser right now. Do me a favor and pull up your website. Okay? I'll give you 5 seconds to do that. Open
You're
up a
allowed to
tab.
multitask.
Yep. Pull up your website. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to put the words "now you can" in front of the headline. Okay. Some of you will have a headline that passes, that will make sense. Now you can, ... And some of you, it won't make sense. Now, we want to play a little game. So some brave volunteers, a handful, could you please write in the meeting chat if it doesn't pass, if the "now you can" doesn't make sense? Can you
Then just
volunteer?
write your headline, what it is. If it does, like, actually tell us what your headline is.
Okay, let
Okay,
me.
now you can, compelling marketing support for clean tech, circular and sustainable businesses.
Okay, that's from Michael. Hold still, compelling. Okay, so Michael. Oh, it's coming so fast. Something about culture, and it just moved away.
All right,
A new
I'll
way
tell
to
you,
build
I'll let Nopen copy some of those down, but I'll read off a few. Now you
Mohit.
can, a
Okay.
new way to build culture and create a sense of belonging for distributed
Okay.
teams.
Mohit. Okay. Perfect. How about 2 more?
Now you can, could your medical affairs training be more effective? Now you can, patent drafting made easy. Okay, so you guys get the picture.
Okay,
These
Melody.
don't sound great. It's probably because you're talking about your product instead of your customers' outcomes. I'm going to pick on more companies. You guys may have heard of Instapage. They should know better because they literally make landing page optimization software. Now you can, over 4 million landing pages built on Instapage. Now their arch rival, Unbounce, now you can convert more leads. Now you can create custom landing pages with no coding required. Those are the exact things that a person who wants landing page optimization would be hoping to do. Amplitude versus Mixpanel. Again, 2 fairly similar competitors. Now you can, number 1, product analytics, or now you can build better products, right? What do you want to do? You want to build better products. Talk about the outcome that the customer wants. Here's a consumer example. Now you can, guided meditations, chants, mantras, blah, blah, blah. So some people who need to meditate might think, yeah, I would like chants and mantras and a timer and tracker. But what do most people who need to meditate think? Most people who need to meditate think, shoot, I can't sleep. I am stressed. I need to relax. I need to get better at focusing and task switching. So now you can find your calm. And this is clever because if you click get started, you can stop putting your headlines in the chat. We got enough. Thank you for all the volunteers. Now you can. And then if you click get started, there's even more now you cans. Reduce stress, improve performance, build self-esteem, develop gratitude, reduce anxiety, better sleep. And you notice they say reduce stress and reduce anxiety. They put them both in there because they're trying to match the words in the customers' heads. And some customers think stress and some customers think anxiety. So the exact words are so important here. So now you see the idea, the difference between like talking about a product or a now you can, how do you find it? So the first thing I want to warn you is this is actually really tricky because our heads are, we built our product, we sold it to investors, we sold it to, potential employees. We're always thinking about our products and our strategies, and our heads are full of all the features of our meditation app or whatever. And you kind of have to push those aside and like totally suspend them and go into this with like an empty mind and understand what your customers want, which are going to be things like, in this case, we know, improve focus, sleep better, manage my emotions, be a better husband, develop gratitude. So we're going to ask our customers some questions to understand what are their now you cans, what are their desired outcomes. The one question I don't want you to ask is, why did you buy our product? Just, I won't go into it now, but you won't get good information. You'll get red herrings. Instead, I recommend these 4 questions. So the first one is, tell me in your own words, what did you buy? Just to get them thinking about the product. And then the most important bits here, what would that enable you to do? What is your now you can with this product? And then there's follow-ups because these now you cans exist on multiple levels. So there's this functional thing. I bought this so I could organize, all my crazy documents. But then there's this next level, which is, why was that so important to you? And the even deeper level is who else cared about this? And just ask them these questions and record what they say and transcribe it and start to look for patterns. And as you're
So
listening, as they're talking,
guaranteed when you ask this question, right? One of your customers is going to say, I love your dashboard. I love feature X, Y, and Z. I love that you do this, right? They'll jump right onto a feature. I want you, as soon as you hear that feature mentioned, to bat it away and to ask question 3. Okay, you love the dashboard, but why is that so important to you? Oh, well, it's convenient. Okay, more convenient than what, right? Like, keep digging, keep digging. But as soon as you hear a feature, bat it away. That's not what we're looking for.
as you're listening, there's 3 levels to this. There's like, what were they trying to do functionally? I want to build high converting landing pages. But the most expensive products, we form an emotional bond. So there's going to be some emotional outcome. So the first one's like, I want to blah, blah, blah. The next one is, I want to feel something. Put your layoff worries to rest, right? That's an emotional headline. And then the next thing is going to be something social, something about how you want to be perceived. I want to be seen as. We worked with, one of our coaches worked with the company, and her unbeatable winning headline was, be the most interesting person in the room. Like, that's a super powerful, now you can. So what I'd like you to do now, we're going to take 3 minutes, and just brainstorm. Think about what your customers would want to do with your product and just write down on your own. Yes, this is jobs to be done. Write down on your own. Just start brainstorming as many headlines as you can think of for your customer, and think about them on the functional, emotional, and social levels. And I'm going to just be quiet and pause this for like 3 minutes while you do that. And if you have any questions, just type them in the Q&A. So now, to just check these headlines, what I'd like you to do is look at 3 things. First of all, look at your headlines and say, are these about the product, or are these about the outcome my customer is trying to achieve? Second thing, is this vague or specific? In other words, like, would someone who's not an expert understand what that means? And then the third is, does this sound like something a human would actually say? Because we still get a lot of these, like, connect anything, achieve everything. That is a now you can, but it's nonsense. So a lot of these headlines can end up still being a little bit too vague. And I want to talk about cleverness versus clarity, because I think, people see the great advertisers of our generation. Apple's maybe the greatest marketing company in the world right now, and they run an ad that looks like this. And it's like, okay, yeah, we just say titanium and everyone will buy our product. But the thing is, Apple spent 30 years earning the right to do this, right? Their first ads for the iPhone looked like this because nobody knew what the heck it was. And so they had to explain every little detail of the product. And they've done that since 2007. So now they can just say titanium, and you already know 99% of the story. So unfortunately, until you earn that, you do need to be pretty clear and specific with your headlines. All right. Nobudan, do you want to go back through some of these?
Okay, so I'm waiting on a couple of them, but for sure, look, I'm looking at Mohit's. His original one was a new way to build culture and create a sense of belonging for distributed teams. Actually, why don't I copy it and put it into the chat and people can read it. I don't think that's horrible, but now you can, the second one is feel connected to your colleagues while not being in the same physical space, which is pretty clear to me how that's going to allow me to do.
Yeah.
Melody originally wrote, could your medical affairs training be more effective? Which it's sort of like, I'm not the ICP, but I'm sort of like, not sure how that's going to help me. But now she's come back with, now you can outsource your medical affairs training, which is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Like, understand that completely. And I was hoping to get something from Mitch and Inez, but I don't see them yet, but that's all right.
So I see some of these are excellent. David, feel confident you're not overpaying for work. Impress your boss by optimizing your maintenance P&L. So a lot of these are, I think, if I'm your target customer, I understand exactly why something like that's going to help me. But the truth is, the goal of your headline is not to impress Matt and Nopadon, right? The goal of your headline is to impress your customers. So what I'd like to do now is just show you the quickest way to validate these different headlines. So as soon as you got one, you can do something called a 5-second test. And I do this, sometimes I'll do this on Zoom calls while I'm waiting for people to arrive. I'll just screen share, a PowerPoint slide with the headline I'm working on, or a screenshot of a web page mockup. And you just show it to people for 5 seconds. Don't warn them and don't count out loud. And then stop the screen share. And then just ask them, what did that say? What do you think that means? And what questions do you have? So the first thing is, like, literally, did they even read it, or is the web page too messy and they missed it? So let's just do a few of these as practice. So I went in ahead of time and grabbed some screenshots from some of your websites. So just have a look at the screen here. All right. What did that say? Anyone know what that said? Yeah. Struggle to read it. Something about co-working. Oh, yeah. Maisha has the photographic memory. Some people read it. Love where you work. Okay. So that isn't now you can. You get a sense. Some people were able to read it. Some people weren't. And people get that it's co-working. So I just shortened it to love where you work. And I thought that seemed like a lot clearer. So you can just do this with your site. Another volunteer, I chose Klima. Okay. You guys saw what that said. I assume it's pretty readable. By climate change, yeah. Okay. What do you think that means? What's that going to help you do? Right. So save the world somehow with an app? Launch the app and wave it around to remove carbon from the air? It's not clear. So for this one, I just took the subhead and the headline and flipped them, because I think the subheadline actually explains it well. Find the most effective actions you can take to fight climate change today. So you get the picture. You can do this just a few times, show it to people, and then just remember those questions. What did that say? Hold on, I'll show you the questions again. What did that say? What do you think that means? And what questions do you have? And then take that feedback, iterate on it, make a new version, show it to some more people, iterate on it, make a new version. And when you get one where you show it to 5 or 10 people and like 70% of them understand it, update your website and you'll be in much better shape.
This is like on a PowerPoint, Google Slides, whatever. Don't put too much time and effort into this. And what we don't care about is people saying, I don't like how it looks. This is for me. I wouldn't use this. We don't care about that. We only care about comprehension. Do they understand the words on the page?
All right, we're out of time. So just a quick recap, and then we've got a language market fit kit. So another free workshop that you guys can have access to get a framework to turn this into a whole landing page. But look like food, ask the 4 questions, find your now you can, and then 5-second test it to iterate and optimize. That's the playbook. Go do it. I hope that you make a ton of money. And if you want to send us 10%, we won't object. When you need to do the rest of the landing page, this is the language market fit kit. You get about 45 minutes of Nopadon stepping you through how to do this for a whole landing page. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't try to sell you a copy of my book. It's available on Amazon. It's called Growth Levers. I'm up to 79 reviews, 4.9 stars. What's that?
Andrew's showing his copy.
Oh, awesome. And last but not least, you probably guessed it, we are running a Maven course. It's March 20th to 27th. We're going to go through the whole growth levers process. So mapping your growth model, finding language market fit, and rapid experimentation and mindset change. So we've got some places left in there. If you'd like to work with us more, it's a 4-part session. And that's all we got. I really, really hope that this is helpful for you. And Nopadon and I can stick around for about 10 minutes and we'll answer questions in the Q&A. Guys, thank you so much. Lonnie, thanks for hosting it.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, stop sharing the slides and we'll get into the Q&A.
Awesome. Okay.
So Helen, there are loads of sort of AI transcription tools out there. But honestly, like
It's not the description that's not the
The
transcription
word
is not the
frequency.
problem.
Yeah.
It's the word frequency. It's like reading through it all and highlighting it all. And, you know, there's a lot of it we can
So-
do in our head. And I know it exists because I was working in an SEO space that did it, but it's part of SEO tools that are
There's definitely,
prohibitively
I don't
expensive.
remember the name of it, but there's
Mhm.
definitely a inexpensive or free one of them. But most companies don't do the frequency text analysis, and even like reading through and highlighting is a pretty worthwhile exercise. So I've answered some of these online. So Daria asked about, after doing the customer interviews, is there a template and a framework? That's the language market fit kit. And that's the framework to kind of turn those interviews into a whole landing pages or emails. Michael Sago, how playful can the now you can be? It really depends on your audience and the tone that is acceptable for them. If you're going to make a joke like be the Steve Jobs of clean tech, again, you got to make sure they get it. So that's where I'd validate it. And, you know, do 5 different people see that headline and all have pretty much the same idea of what it would mean to be the Steve Jobs of clean tech. But if you can get funny working and if it's on brand for you, it's super memorable. We've all seen products that have enticing headlines but fail to deliver. I think a killer headline, if you don't yet have brand awareness, is necessary, but obviously not sufficient. You know, clearly you need to have a product that delivers. But again, if you can't even write and now you can, like if you can't write in one sentence what it is your customers are trying to do, you have very little chance of delivering on that promise because you don't even know what you're promising. So I still think, you know, it's up to you to build a great product, but it starts with getting super clear on what the customer wants.
My favorite is the headlines that are written for the VCs. But, you know, forget, like VCs are people too, and they need to figure out within the first 10 seconds how you're going to help them. So
people asking about the recording, I think Lonnie put an answer in there. I know they're going to email it around to everybody, I think, after the event. The 3 criteria. Yeah. So those were like, is it about your product or the outcome? Is it vague or specific? Remember clarity versus cleverness. And then could you imagine somebody actually saying this or Googling it or even asking ChatGPT that question? All right. Should there be specific people who must validate your headline or should it be understood by everyone? It depends on your customers, but I think
do you have the Kevo example?
Yeah, I'll share that.
Show that one.
Here's one. Like, I think the best B2B headlines work even if you're not the customer, right? So this one is build a custom ad server in just weeks. I'm guessing most of us don't need or have never needed to build a custom ad server, but I think we all know what this product is going to help us do and how it's different than the other custom ad server building products out there. So I'd say strive for clarity. But for these first tests, you know, I think showing it to anyone is way better than showing it to no one.
You might have a very specific niche sort of ideal customer profile that uses technical jargon. Like if you do have one of those products, yes, obviously comprehension test it with your ICP, your ideal customer profile. But like Matt said, for the most part, we should really be benefit focused.
How do you make sure the answers you get from a few customers are relevant for the majority of your audience? So the first thing I would do is I'd ask those questions, the 4 questions, to like 10 or 20 people and see if you start to hear patterns or themes in their answers. If you do, that's a pretty good signal, but then I would test it quantitatively. So if you have a large database of prospects, you could try subject line testing emails with different now you cans or emailing them a multiple choice question and seeing which one gets the most clicks. If it's prospects, you can try targeting, you know, lookalikes or a really tight audience or people searching for a high intent search traffic. And then again, A/B test different now you can headlines and see which ones get the most clicks and which ones actually convert. And that's going to give you more of a quantitative validation of what you're hearing in these interviews.
I think, one of the things I want to iterate is this isn't exceptional copywriting. This is not like you don't need an expensive copywriter. This is literally asking your prospects and users, what is it that we allow you to do? Describe the transformation you expect, right? And it's just taking their language and their pain points exactly the way that they're talking about it, right? Like I can see like people are shaking in their heads, but I know a lot of you aren't going to speak to your customers. And this is the easiest way to do this. Shortcut it.
Iterating elevator pitches. I'm not sure I understand the question.
The elevator pitch has got to be obviously snappy, and you have to be able to comprehend it. So I would probably, you could probably comprehension test some of the things that you're saying in the elevator pitch, but this is not what this is for.
As for ChatGPT, I find it helps. Sorry?
I said, again, just ask your customers.
Yeah. As far as ChatGPT writing headlines, I do find if I prompt it well and give it good formulas and constraints, it can help spur my thinking. It's a good thinking partner. Occasionally I'll get a great headline out of it, but it really depends. The writing part, again, is the easy part. So I think one thing I'm starting to play with is grabbing loads of customer competitor reviews and uploading them to ChatGPT and using that as like a basis to seed, like, what would be headlines that would reassure these customers that this product would do X and things like that. So I'm starting to experiment with it.
But again, speak to your customers.
Yeah. Yeah, this isn't Ernest Hemingway or Fred Caples or anything. All right. Any other questions? If those of you who volunteered your bad headlines in the beginning, I'd especially like to thank you. It takes a lot of courage on a webinar of like 100 people to say, here, I just failed this test. And I really admire that. And that lack of ego and that desire to improve will serve you well long after this session ends.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you. This is great.
Thanks very much.
Take care, team.